everybody. Welcome to VME's Lunch Talk, sponsored by the Image Center VME Program Services as we celebrate National Engineers Week. I'm Jess Turner, and I'll be your host. We're going to focus on a topic that impacts students across the globe, from college to the world of engineering, then and now. It's an important topic, especially since many of you guys are about to graduate and transfer to the workplace, which I also experienced last May. So some of you guys may wonder, how can you land a job? What tools can you use to help with the search? And what unwritten rules are there to make a smooth transition from school to work? So today we'll explore 4 related questions from the perspective of 3 panelists. Then we'll be having a talk about upcoming events and also a live demo of a great tool that leverages AI in job searches and career planning. So let's introduce our panelists. First, we have Dr. Rothman. He's a mechanical engineer and program advisor at Stevenson University in Owings Mills, Maryland, and he works in biomedical engineering. Next, we have Brandon Mitchell. He's co-founder and CEO of RightC. We'll get a spotlight on him in a second. He works in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and he's a developer of an AI job search and career tool. So when this discussion is over, Brandon will share a demo, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Next, we got Sophia. She works at Northrop Grumman as a mechanical engineer in Lincoln, Maryland. Thank you all our panelists for joining us. So it's time to get started. Our first question will help us get to know our panelists a little bit better. Dr. Rothman, will start with you, then Brandon, and then Sophia. Where did you all go to undergraduate or grad school, and what was your major?
Okay, great. Yeah, so I did my undergrad and my master's at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, that's up in New York. My bachelor's degree was in biomedical engineering, and my master's degree was in mechanical engineering. Then I went to work, and after about 6 years, I went back and did my doctorate in mechanical engineering on a part-time basis at Johns Hopkins.
Awesome. How about Brandon next?
Hi, everyone. I have 3 degrees from SUNY Plattsburgh, which is all the way upstate New York. I studied finance, economics, and MIS, which is Management Information Systems. I landed a job a year before I graduated. I went to go work at PricewaterhouseCoopers down in Manhattan. And I always joke around to say that I wasn't an engineer by trade, but I sure think like one, and I hire a lot of them.
Gotcha. Nice. And Sophia.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I only recently graduated from University of Maryland, I think maybe a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And I studied mechanical engineering. Although I do have some other kind of varied experiences. I studied liberal arts at Reed College for 2 years. So I studied physics, anthropology, and Spanish. And then in high school, I also studied fine arts. So I have some varied background, but yeah, my main job that I do is mechanical engineering, and then now I've transitioned to a systems engineering role.
Very nice. Got lots of different backgrounds out here, so hopefully we can give a little something special for everybody today. Next question. Brandon, this time we'll start with you. Step us through your journey. You already kind of started to do so. How did you end up getting your first job out of college or graduate school?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so for me, how I landed my first job out of college was actually going through or going to a conference. This is back, I believe like maybe in 2015 or so. I was a part of the Accounting and Finance Association, the Stock Market Club, the Marketing Club on campus. I got to know about an event called the NABA Eastern Regional Conference, which was like the National Association of Black Accountants. They had a regional conference. So like any, ambitious college student, I went to the conference. And there was just a ton of different companies there where, there was PwC and JP Morgan and all these big banks. And on site, I was actually able to interview with a university recruiter, which is really important. The university recruiter really liked me. My resume was pretty good at that time. I had a lot of different club experience and leadership experience, and I tried to start my own company in college. And so they flew me out to New York City for what was called a super day, where you literally are from like, let's say 8 to 5 p.m. You're going back to back in interviews, like 30-minute interviews with different levels of management. And then they offered me a full-time, well, first an internship. And then from the internship, I did that summer internship and then was able to transition into full-time employment in New York City. And so it really was just going to conferences, networking. I think is extremely important to really put yourself out there, have an extremely good elevator pitch so people know exactly what you're looking for. And just be very confident, in your abilities, even though sometimes when you're a student, you feel like you don't know enough, but it's everyone feels that way. And so that's kind of how I landed my first job. And then from there, I spent 2.5 years in corporate America. And then I transitioned into entrepreneurship. And so I've been a full-time entrepreneur now for the last 5 years. But yes, that's how I landed my first job.
Amazing. I appreciate your answer. Next, we'll go to Sophie.
Yeah, hi. So I mainly got my job by just getting more involved with engineering on campus. So University of Maryland, College Park, had like a lot of different clubs and opportunities. And I also just knew a lot of people who were involved in different things. So I did a lot of talking to them about like my interests and what I was involved in. So the main thing that I did is I talked to a friend who had interned at the company I'm working at, which is Northrop Grumman, and he recommended this competition, which was the Northrop Grumman Environmental Sustainability Challenge. So I joined that, and my team competed. We actually ended up winning the competition, and my friend was pretty impressed. I think with my dedication, he's like, "Oh, nobody puts in that much effort. You're putting in so much effort." But he was like, "Okay, it seems like that you would be a good person to work at the company. I actually do this other thing, Northrop Grumman Innovation Lab. Do you want to join?" And he like pitched me to the mentor there. His name's Mike. And Mike became like my best friend. He's all like, "Oh yeah, gotta get you working at Northrop Grumman." And so he like basically pestered the hiring manager until they hired me. That's basically how that happened. So I feel like yeah, networking is basically just like making friends and you're talking to people. So that's how I did it.
So it sounds like if any of us were hoping to get a job without talking to people, we're out of luck. We'll see. Maybe
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah, get
Rothman has another way
involved.
to
Get
see it.
involved.
Getting involved is good. So, Dr. Rothman, how did you get your first job?
Yeah. So a little context, right? When I got my first job, there was no internet. And if you wanted to find out about companies, it meant you had to go to the library and pull books off of shelves and read about companies that way. Um, and when you applied for jobs, you sent letters. So it was kind of a very, very different time. But the Career Center on campus at RPI brought people onto campus every week to do interviews. And you would go look at the postings of the jobs and then go off and do some research about the companies and figure out who you wanted to interview with. So I did a few interviews that way, one of which resulted in a plant visit that I really hated. Um, and one day I saw a posting in the biomedical engineering office that Black& Decker was looking for biomedical engineers. And so I was like, okay. So their management team, which was very small at the time, this was just for their medical products division that used to exist but doesn't anymore. Um, so their management team came and interviewed on campus. They invited two of us down to the plant in Towson, Maryland. Um, Unfortunately, it was during a snowstorm in January of 1979, which was a nightmare. But it was a one-day trip down and back in a snowstorm. So that was kind of interesting. But we interviewed with a number of folks down here, and they offered me the job. So that's how I got my first job. Of course, I've had a whole bunch of positions sort of in the interim, and echoing a little bit of what Sophie said is most of the positions that I've been in came from networking, from people that I knew, or people that I just reached out to through LinkedIn, for example. contact the CEO of a company and say, I'm interested in what your company's doing, which was a little bit of a bold move, but that actually worked out for me. So yeah, so I think, my early experience is very, very different from sort of how we do things now. You have so many more tools available to you to be able to identify potential opportunities, right? And what I always tell students is what you're looking for in that first job is something that sounds interesting to you. You're going to have to learn a lot in your first job anyway. And after you do it for a while, you figure out whether it's really what you want to do or you want to do something else. So you just kind of have to be open to, you know, I didn't have a plan, right? I'm going to work for 45 years and this is all the things I wanted to do. It was sort of like do the first one and then kind of figure out what comes after that.
Very nice. It's nice to know that folk don't have to have it all figured out by their junior or senior year, because that's where all these people probably who are listening are at. But a follow-up question, would there be anything you'd recommend for the students to do in that junior year to prepare for their late college internships or career fairs that you wish you didn't, that you wish you knew at the time?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about co-op or internships and anything when I was a undergrad or working on my master's. And I know people did them, but I really had very little exposure to them. My advice is always is to get experience. Whatever that experience is, any experience is good experience, whether it's directly in the field you want to work in or tangentially related to the field you want to work in. All of the skills that you develop through an internship or any kind of volunteer experiences really is beneficial, um, to sort of your whole being as an engineer. So, and being able to talk about those things, through job interviews and things really is going to be helpful going forward. So, my advice is always is get some kind of experience that's outside of the classroom, outside of the university, if possible, because all of those things will be beneficial to you.
Gotcha. You can go to Sophie next if you're willing.
Yeah, yeah. So, I have a friend who I know who he was showing me his resume and he's like, I feel like I just don't have anything interesting to talk about that, would make me look presentable to people, where for trying to find his job. And I looked at his resume and I just noticed like the way that he worded it and kind of what kind of experiences he was emphasizing. So he was focusing a lot on, specifically what internship experiences he had, which were somewhat limited, right? But he didn't talk a lot about just his general knowledge. So I would suggest if you're looking at your resume and trying to prepare your resume, like a great way to do that is to focus on what are these experiences that I have had that would help me to look to another company like that I know how to do that job or I've learned those skills. So that could be like, any kind of personal project that you've done or you know, like you like it could be a school project, could be a personal project, like what clubs are you a part of? And like going seeking out opportunities like that where you can develop those skills and then just say, "Hey, I have these skills now and I can use those skills in this job." And then, you're kind of focusing on like this is what I know, this is what I can do, and this is how it applies to the job that I'm looking for and why I'd be a great candidate. And just like telling your story like that. And I
Yeah,
think just knowing what your story is, like formulating in your mind, writing it down, it helps a lot with being able to explain it to someone else. Um, and I think you probably have know or have experienced a lot more than you may think.
definitely. It's like just demonstrate that you have transferable skills, and usually anything you've done in undergrad for a course or extracurricular can be applied for a job.
Yeah, or even just
So,
like a willingness to learn and just showing
mhm,
like, that you are someone who would be fun and interesting to work with and, you know, is just wants to be there.
yeah, soft skills matter too. We'll loop back around to Brandon. What did you recommend for folks trying to prepare for career fairs and internships?
Yeah, I would say that there's two things. The first thing is to apply early, because in most instances, if you are looking for a role at maybe like a bigger company or you want a big name on your resume, their university recruiting teams typically recruits in some instances 8 to 9 months in advance, which is really interesting, right? And so for my job at PwC, I landed the offer in October and I started in July of the following year. And so that means that the recruiting was basically done in September and October. And so just be really cognizant not to wait to the last minute to apply and to, have your target list of companies or opportunities that you're interested in and really be available and ready for when those opportunities open up to apply and to network, et cetera. Because you don't want to, apply late and then you've missed the deadline. And so most people think that they can wait to, you know, let's say, April before you graduate in May to start looking for a job, but you really want to start as early as possible for these internships and for these full-time jobs. And I would say the
Yeah.
second is to reverse engineer the process, right? Like take some time to look at job descriptions often for entry-level roles. And if there are things on the job description that you don't know or terminologies or skills, take the time, even if you're not being taught those skills in your actual courses, to go and seek knowledge and visibility into those skills so that you can be ahead of the curve, etc. Those are things that I wish I would have done. I did some of them, but if I would give advice to a college student now, like those are the things I would really, really, really take advice on.
Awesome. That kind of leads us into our next question. We've touched base about communication skills, soft skills like being personable, or just being able to apply experiences you don't necessarily see exactly fitting a job to what they're describing. So, as these people are getting ready to enter the workforce, can we highlight some other non-technical skills that would be helpful for them? So, Sophie, let's start with you.
Yeah, so we touched a little bit on networking, but I just wanted to go a bit more in detail about what that means and how, you could do more of that. So networking is like, you're talking to people, you're making friends, but not just, your peers who, you want to hang out with on the weekends and like, I don't know, play games, go on walks, whatever. Like you're making friends in the context of your professional career life or your school life. So you're talking about not just, what are your favorite hobbies, but you're talking about like what are your interests for your pursuing in your career? Where do you want to go? And then talking to other people about what their interests are, what their, aspirations are, what kind of opportunities they might have. So like your professors might have some connection to like a work environment you're interested in, or maybe their research is involved in something you're interested in. So a networking thing might be to go and talk to that person, try to learn more about what they do, kind of make friends with them. And then if they feel like connected with you, they might offer, oh, hey, do you want to do your research with me? Or, hey, I actually know somebody who seems like that what they want to do or what they're doing is very similar to what you like to do. I could introduce you, or something. Or even like, yeah, like I connected with a friend. So they could be one of your peers who you connect with and talk about those kinds of things with. And then once you actually get to the workforce, like what Dr. Neal was saying, you can transfer between positions within your company. It depends on like how big it is. I know like Northrop Grumman is really big. There's a lot of different kinds of jobs, a lot of people. So networking there is really valuable because you can go talk to people and say, "Oh, wow, that sounds really interesting. Can you tell me more about what you do?" And like, do you know of any opportunities for me to be able to do something like that too? Even within your own role, you can seek out those kind of opportunities. So you may think, oh, my role is software. I just do software. That's all I do, but like maybe there are opportunities kind of adjacent to your role that are still related to the work you're doing that aren't just software. And you could try reaching out to people and say, hey, do you have any work that you need to be done? Or you ask your manager, can I work like on some of this part of it? And just if you just keep talking about it and what your interests are, eventually it'll just like the opportunities will come, you know? So,
Yeah, awesome. Dr. Rothman, next.
Yeah, so I'll echo the communication that you mentioned already in all forms. Right? Doesn't matter how smart you are, but if you can't communicate your ideas, then that doesn't really matter. But the thing I wanted to say is something that somebody told me a long time ago is to um, be where you're supposed to be, arrive on time, and be prepared when you get there. Right? You do those things, you're probably ahead of 75 or 80% of everybody else. So, I mean, those are things that, students don't want to hear that, oh, by the way, the workday starts early and sometimes it runs late and you still have to be there and still have to be prepared and doing what you need to do. So, being diligent about those things, your boss is always going to expect a work. So it's like, sorry, you're not going to be sliding by or you won't be around very long.
Very useful too. How about Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely love what Sophie said about being intentional, especially when you're talking to prospective people, so that they can connect you with the opportunities that you're looking for. I think mine would be around just communication, but deeper, like that professional communication and that email communication. Oftentimes, when you're a college student, you're ignoring a lot of your emails, or you're sending very light and sweet emails. But I think in the professional world, communication via emails is extremely important. And that's something that can really help you excel in your career if you're a very good communicator via email. So being able to take your thoughts, break it down into different sections or bullet points, and to be really clear when you're communicating, making sure that everything is spell checked. And these are the things that sound really small and minute, but everybody notices it, right? Especially if you're sending emails to larger threads and chains of people. You just really want to make sure that you have good skill sets there. If you haven't taken a course or a class on business writing or business communication, there's a ton on LinkedIn Learning around how to communicate professionally via email. But you would be surprised sometimes even, seasoned professionals or mid-level professionals, their email etiquette isn't where it needs to be. And so if you're earlier on in your career and you have really good email communication skills, that's going to set you apart from other people. There's been instances where I've seen an email come through and I'm just like, wow, that was a really good email. And so like that actually happens in the corporate and the or work environment. So really be diligent about your not just your verbal communication, but your written and your email communication as well. I think it's very important.
Yeah, never discount how you appear in any outlook. Like, you don't know when something will turn into an informal interview or just a first impression, and it really matters. So we'll go on to our last question. We'll start with Dr. Rothman, then Brandon, then Sophia. Do you guys find that community service, like what we do at VME and Image Center, is helpful to round out your careers, and why? Dr. Rothman.
Yeah, so I would say absolutely. As sort of said before, any experience is good experience, but what you're really looking for is experience that's consistent with your story about who you are and what you're interested in doing. So when you couple community service, volunteer activities, and other things that then show that, this isn't just about what I want to do in the office. These are things that I'm going to do throughout my community. These are things that bring me enjoyment, the things that I value. So I think that that's really, it reinforces your story. If you're an environmental engineer and what you do as a hobby or volunteer activities is something that's detrimental to the environment, it's like, okay, those stories clash. But if you're an engineer, and in my case, biomedical engineer, and you're working on, solutions for people with disabilities, right? That's 100% in alignment. It also gives you really great stuff to talk about in interviews. So yeah, absolutely. I think that that's incredibly valuable for students.
Awesome. Brandon?
Yeah, I would definitely echo a lot of that. I think community service and volunteer activities round you out as a holistic professional, and give you a lot of different things to talk about when it's not just talking about work. A lot of times, and in most environments, people will ask you, well, what do you do outside of work, or what are the hobbies? Like I was actually at a conference yesterday and somebody asked me, well, what do you do outside of trying to take over the world? Right. And so I spoke about a lot of things that I do and kind of how I give back. And again, if it is mission aligned or a mission focus with just who you are and what you believe in, I think it really helps. And there's also a concept that I live by. It's called lift as you climb, right? And so, any opportunities that you have to reach back to someone that might be a little bit, younger than you, like you can, definitely inspire and change people. Even if you are in college, like you can inspire and change like a high school or a middle school student, right? And sometimes you can inspire or change the perspective of someone that's even older than you. So take any opportunity to, assist and to just add more things to your resume, whether it's intentional or unintentional, because it definitely will make you a better professional. And just having more experiences can only help for sure in your career. So I think it's extremely valuable.
I agree. And last, Sophie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always good to get involved in things that you find meaningful and interesting. Like, cause yeah, to VME, to me, VME is, it is meaningful to me, like helping people with disabilities. Like, actually, I don't know if I talked about this with Angela, but my mom also had Huntington's disease and passed away from Huntington's disease. So to me, helping people with disabilities is very meaningful. And in addition, yeah, it's like I enjoy that interaction with other people and kind of making something for another person, and developing that connection with that person. It feels meaningful to me. And if you get involved in something that feels meaningful to you, even if it's not directly related to the work you do, it demonstrates your interest in it in a tangible way that you could then, yeah, like Dr. Neal was saying, build out your story a little bit more. And may also like give you more experiences than you might have otherwise. Like when you're in their work environment, it can, or even school environment or whatever, it can kind of like create a little bubble where it's just you're limited in what kind of experiences you have, what kind of people you can meet. So going and seeking like experiences outside of that can be very beneficial. And then, you might also meet people like I was saying with networking before, who you can make a connection with and maybe find opportunities that way too.
You panelists for all your lovely answers. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes we can share our LinkedIn or contact for people who have additional questions so they can follow up with us as we're wrapping out our time here. So thank you guys so much. Feel free to put your contacts in the chat. And as we go around with thinking, we got, again, shout out to Dr. Rothman, Brandon, and Sophie. Lastly, we're going to do some announcements. And while I do that, I'll share my contact too. So, upcoming events. February 26th and March 26th, 6 p.m., we have our volunteer engineering meetings. We're going to have a great opportunity for folk to help each other and discuss the projects and devices that they're working on. So as you see on the left, you can check out our programs at imagemd.org. On Saturday, May 3rd, for the Baltimore City Kinetic Sculpture Race, we're gonna need some volunteers to help us set up, please. So again, visit our website to see if you can volunteer. And on Saturday, May 3rd, we want people to help us build and paint. So please consider, well, rounding out your experiences and having a great time with us as we volunteer. And throughout May, the Image Center will host a month of activities to celebrate independent living. Again, you can visit our website for more details. And as we wrap up, Brandon, if you want to stick around, and everybody else will give us a 5-minute demo of his powerful AI job search and career tool. And then we'll have 5 more minutes for questions. Again, I'm Jess. Thank you guys for listening. And you're welcome to go or stay around for Brandon's demo. Have a great day, and thank you guys for joining.
So thank you all so much for passing the baton. What we're getting ready to do is a very short demo of our AI tool for students and job seekers to be better at the job search process. What I'm going to do is play a quick 1.5 minute video that just gives a 10,000-foot view of everything that's inside of the tool. And then you all will be able to see just a quick live demonstration of me simulating, let's say, for example, a interview for a mechanical engineering role. So I'm going to go ahead and play this quick video. This is going to talk about everything at a high level. It is Job Search Genius, so you can always sign up as well here.
Meet Job Search Genius, an AI-powered platform designed to save you time and help you land more interviews. From crafting perfect resumes, generating personalized cover letters, acing interviews, to negotiating salaries. It's all here. Let's start with the resume. Upload one or create one from scratch. You can edit all your personal details, but here's where the magic happens. With just a click, the Rewrite feature provides enhanced suggestions for bullet points that instantly make your resume more compelling. Need help creating or optimizing your LinkedIn headline or career story? No problem. Job Search Genius does it for you, instantly. Now on to cover letters. Select your resume and a job, and within seconds, a customized cover letter is ready. You can adjust names, tone, or length with ease, turning a time-consuming task into something quick and efficient. Preparing for interviews? Just enter the job description, and Job Search Genius generates relevant questions and sample responses to help you prepare. You can even simulate a real interview and get feedback on your delivery, nonverbal cues, and vocabulary. Detailed reports show exactly where you can improve, question by question. Overwhelmed by your job search? With Job Search Genius, tracking your applications has never been easier. Instantly see your progress, stay on top of follow-ups, and keep your job search organized and efficient. Take control of your job hunt with Job Search Genius, the smarter way to stay on track. And when it's time to negotiate your salary, Job Search Genius goes beyond helping you craft the perfect counteroffer. Our AI salary negotiation assistant reviews and negotiates key job details like vacation, compensation, work schedule, and benefits, ensuring you get the best offer with just a few clicks. In short, Job Search Genius simplifies every step of your job search. It's powerful, it's fast, it's efficient. Start your free trial today at jobsearchgenius.ai.
Awesome. So I hope that was a really easy video for you all to kind of see what the tool does in a nutshell. You can come here and sign up for free for 7-day free trial. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just jump inside of an account and show you all a few just quick things. I know we only have a few minutes. So when you jump inside the tool, you have your own personalized dashboard where you can upload your resume, make it better using the AI. You can jump into just simulating a real interview. You can work on cover letters, the whole thing. But what I'm going to show you is our mock interview tool. I think it's one of the most valuable things, especially when it comes to preparing for a potential interview or just curious about what does a role at any company look like. So you can click on mock interview. You can decide to say, okay, we'll start a new one. You can just go to ZipRecruiter or CareerBuilder and just grab the job URL. So for example, this ZipRecruiter job, it's a mechanical engineering job in Philadelphia. You can just come in here, take this URL, come back in our tool and just put it in here. If that doesn't work, you can just copy paste the details. And then you can say, all right, well, I want to simulate a situational interview or an intro call. This is the difficulty level. So what our AI is trained to do is to look at your resume, look at the job description, look at the type of interview, and then the difficulty level. And you can choose your avatar. And then instantly, when you click on Start Mock Interview, you can get on camera. You'll have 4 questions, 2 minutes each, and then the AI will start to ask you questions. So I'll just show you 1 or 2 questions so you can kind of get the idea.
Can you describe a time when you had to manage multiple technical projects simultaneously? How did you prioritize your tasks and ensure successful completion of each project?
All right. Yeah, this is like a mechanical, that mechanical engineer role. intermediate difficulty level, the AI is going to start coming up with really good questions. And so as you start to answer the questions, it will transcribe your audio on the right. And then it's again to go through all 4 questions.
In your previous experiences, how have you approached integrating new technologies or tools like Jira into your work process? How would you apply this experience to improve project efficiency at Burns Engineering?
Okay. So that's the AI. It knows what's on your resume. It knows the job, and it's going to start asking you some really good questions based off of that level. And when you're done with the interview, what you're going to get, so only 8 minutes, and you can do this a limited amount of times, is you get personalized feedback on how you did overall with the score, what you can do to improve your interviewing skills. And then you can go question by question and get a deep dive of every single question that you answered, watch it back, get a personal score for every question, and then you can share that link with a mentor, a friend, a colleague, etc. And so we are trying to partner with as many universities to get this tool into the hands of your college. So we'd love to get an introduction to maybe to your career center. But you can also just use the tool, for free, just coming to jobsearchgenius.ai for a 7-day trial, and then you can subscribe. It's relatively cheap. But yeah, that's our tool. We're really excited about it. We have dozens of colleges using it today, and I think it could be a really helpful tool in maximizing your job search and your opportunities to land your next or your first job. Thank you, guys.
Awesome job, Brandon. Thanks for sharing. So now we're gonna get our panelists back up and get into Q&A. So participants, feel free to drop questions in the chat, get on the mic, but we'll just start with some of the chat that we got from the YouTube stream. So the first question, we talked a lot about the importance of networking. So if you really don't like to network, you're not really keen on spending time around people, how do you recommend they go about it? What's the best way to network if you really, really don't want to do it?
Well, you can not do it, and unfortunately, that eliminates probably 75% of your opportunities. Um, but I would turn it on its head a little bit. And I said, there may be certain things about networking that you find to be uncomfortable, like, schmoozing with people or something like that. And that's not networking. What I would, tell somebody is, doing informational interviews where you're just kind of probing into a field and trying to understand what it is that they do. That's an engineering discussion, right? That's not schmoozing or anything like that, right? So all of that should be super interesting to you, right? So identifying the people that you should talk to, but then you're really talking to them about, why are you in this field? What do you like about the job that you do? What is it about your company that you find interesting? Those kinds of things. Those are all engineering topics. They're not schmoozing topics, right? You're not like, at the cocktail party going around and talking to people and being interesting, right? It's all about trying to learn from other people, right? So I think if you just try to think about networking differently, then I think it can be a lot more palatable for people.
Yeah, it sounds like if you're interested in working at the company, there's probably something you guys could have a conversation about. So just think about why you would want to work there and try to talk to them about the things you find interesting about their work, at the very least, and that should spark some interesting conversation. Sounds like Brandon or Sophie, either one can go next.
Yeah, I'll just say something quick there. I think that most networking can only be a net positive for you, just because you're also gaining a lot of information, a lot of exposure. Sometimes, you might not be able to act on the information, but then maybe a few months later, you might get a note that says, "Hey, I remember this thing that you mentioned in our conversation, and I want to connect you with such and such and so on and so forth." And I think is the thing that I said before, it's about being intentional. Like you can network with intention and you don't have to, go to a conference and talk to 100 people. Like you can set a target that says, hey, I'll just want to talk to 6 people and then I'll leave, right? And I'll have 6 10-minute conversations, right? So you don't have to feel like networking is like a whole day worth of, talking and, rubbing shoulders. Like you can have your own targets and your own guidelines. And then once you hit that, you can feel fulfilled that you did what you needed to do. And then, yeah, and if you don't want to network with people in person, there's Slack communities, there's Reddit chats, there's LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups. Like you don't always have to network in person. Like you can get to know someone through just, like web communication. And so don't feel like you have to, network in person with people to kind of still accomplish the goals.
True, very true.
Yeah. I was also going to add, if you feel like intimidated by like the idea of reaching out to like a manager at a company, like maybe you're just joining your new company, and you're trying to switch roles or something like that. You don't have to start with that. You could also start by just talking to people you already know or you already work with. Or like if you're still in college, and you're trying to find a job, like yes, you'll need to go to these career fairs probably to meet employers and stuff like that. Um, but you can also talk to your friends and see, where have they had internships and uh how did they enjoy that internship and what would they recommend, or like do they know someone that you could talk to, or something like that who works at the company, and you could just meet up with them and they might be really just casual conversation and just enjoy talking to you, and like they're probably just enjoy mentoring. And then those connections make it so that when you do have an interview, you'll say, "Oh yeah, I met the person who works here and they told me about what they do. I thought it sounded really interesting." And it will make like it basically just even like a little bit of conversation with just people you already know or people who are like maybe one step further can make like the process of getting a job a lot easier. Um, and like that person will have more trust that you're someone good to work with because they know another person who can vouch for you.
Thank you guys for your other answers. I guess if anybody has any additional questions, our contact is in the Zoom chat. You can also look us up on LinkedIn. We're all available for folk messaging us with additional questions. So thank you guys for your time again. And that's the end of our lunch talk. So feel free to connect and keep the conversation going. There's always more to learn, and to summarize it all, just keep an open mind, apply what we said to yourself, and take it a day at a time. You have time, just do your best, ask for help, and it'll be okay. Thank you all for joining.